Welcome to Fix It Home Improvement, covering projects that every homeowner should know and great products for home and garden.
Hi, I'm JC, and this is where we share weekly home improvement tips. I'm here with my co-host, Cindy.
Hello, JC.
Hi, Cindy. This week we're going to be talking about microgreens, and we'd like to thank Melissa for liking and sharing the podcast.
Just Melissa?
Just Melissa.
Like Cher?
Webster's Dictionary says the first known use of the word mesclun was in 1976. Mesclun means a mixture of young, tender greens, so plants that aren't fully grown.
Mm-hmm.
In 1992, a food writer wrote about a salad she was served with mesclun they called microgreens, which was one of the first mentions of the term microgreen.
Cool. What are microgreens?
Science Direct says microgreens are a relatively new class of vegetables defined as tender, immature greens produced from the seeds of vegetables, herbs, or grains. Mississippi State University says microgreens are the young, immature seedlings of plants, usually harvested 7 to 21 days after germination when they're 1 to 3 inches tall. And you're only eating the stems and the leaves.
Okay. What are the benefits of microgreens?
Microgreens are nutrient-dense with many of the nutrients that are essential for our health. They can be grown in limited space inside your home, and according to a study published in the Journal of Physiological Anthropology, interaction with indoor plants can reduce physiological and psychological stress. Penn State's College of Agricultural Sciences says studies show microgreens have a high nutritional profile and a high content of antioxidant compounds.
Cool.
Researchers from the University of Maryland found in their studies microgreens contained more nutrients than their mature counterparts. Some microgreens had 40 times the vitamin C and E compared to the mature plants. One of the researchers said they thought there was a mistake with some of the early results because the nutrient levels were so high. They looked at vitamins and other phytochemicals and found that the leaves from almost all the microgreens had 4 to 6 times more nutrients than the mature leaves of the same plants.
Wow, who knew?
Yeah, it's wild. But they said that the results may vary depending on the type of microgreen that you're growing.
Mm-hmm.
The National Library of Medicine says the U.S. Department of Health recommends 1 to 4 cups of vegetables a day, depending on your age. And because microgreens are so rich in nutrients, smaller amounts may provide similar nutritional effects compared to larger quantities of the mature vegetables.
What's the difference between microgreens and sprouts?
The International Functional Foods Association says there are 4...
That sounds very official.
It does. There are 4 main phases a plant goes through, and it's going to vary depending on the plant. But in general, phase 1 is a plant that's 2 to 5 days old, and it's considered a sprout.
Okay.
Phase 2 is a plant 10 to 14 days old, and it's called a microgreen. Phase 3, a plant is 15 to 40 days old, and they call that baby greens. Phase 4 is a plant 40 to 150 days old, and it's considered a mature plant.
Okay.
So sprouts are the first phase of a plant's life cycle. It's a barely germinated seed, usually grown in water for 2 to 5 days. It's pale in color, it doesn't have green chlorophyll, and you eat the entire sprout, including the seed. Microgreens are usually 10 to 14 days old and have the maximum amount of key nutrients, vitamins, and antioxidants, and they're usually around 4 inches tall. They can be grown in potting soil or soilless medium, like coconut coir, and they also have like growing mats for microgreens.
Right. What are some different types of microgreens?
There's around 80 different types of plants.
You're not going to list them all, are you?
That are grown as microgreens. Some popular microgreens are mustard greens, kale, arugula, spinach, radish, watercress, peas, fennel, onion, mustard, dill, cabbage, basil, broccoli, cauliflower, lettuce, beets, chard, chives, garlic, cilantro, and celery.
Cool.
So that's almost all of them.
What is a good way to start growing microgreens at home?
The microgreen blends are a good way to try microgreens because they give you a mix of flavors from mild to spicy and different textures. Some microgreen blends are labeled salad or sandwich seed mixes.
Okay.
And if you're just starting to grow microgreens, some companies recommended starting with 1 or 2 varieties like radish, which is easy to grow and they have a lot of flavor, and pea microgreens. They're considered one of the healthiest types of microgreens, and it has a mild flavor.
All right, cool. What is the difference between organic seeds and non-GMO seeds?
The USDA says seeds labeled organic come from plants that weren't genetically engineered or treated with prohibited substances like synthetic fertilizers, antibiotics, pesticides, or growth stimulants.
Okay.
GMO is genetically modified organism,
spicy.
which is artificially manipulated genetic material. Non-GMO means it's produced without genetic engineering or not produced from genetically modified plants.
Okay. Can you grow microgreens inside or outside?
Yeah, you can grow them inside or outside.
How do you grow microgreens in your home?
We spoke to Knowing Nature about growing microgreens inside. They said to first discover what you like before buying seeds in bulk. This way you can test whether you enjoy their taste and if they grow well with your setup.
Okay.
They also said the seeds need warmth to get started and to germinate.
Mm-hmm.
If you have cold windowsills, place your planter in a warmer spot until the seeds germinate and are above the soil line. Then you can move it to your windowsill to get light.
Okay.
Knowing Nature recommends bottom watering microgreens by growing them in a container with drainage holes, and when you water the microgreens, immerse the container in water. Then after a few minutes of soaking up the water, you can remove the container from the water.
Oh.
This way the leaves aren't getting wet and attracting mold.
Right.
Then water only when the medium is dry. Overwatering, they say, is a bigger challenge for plants than underwatering. Microgreens can bounce back from underwatering even if they're slumped over, but overwatering can cause issues that are harder to resolve, like mold and drowning the greens before they're ripe. And you can check out Knowing Nature at knowingnature.com. That's KNOWINGNATURE.com.
Cool.
Penn State University says to grow microgreens inside, you're going to need seeds, water, a growing medium like potting soil or a grow mat, a growing container or tray, a spray bottle, and a sharp knife or scissors. Since microgreens don't require a lot of medium to grow in, flat trays are preferred over pots. Make sure you're using materials suitable for food production. Trays with drainage holes will allow watering from the bottom and enable excess water to drain. After filling trays with a growing medium like potting mix, use a larger tray without drainage holes to set your microgreen tray in. Pour water into the larger tray so water is absorbed by the potting mix, and once the potting mix is wet, remove it from the water and let the excess water drain.
Cool.
Filling trays to the top with your growing medium makes it easier to cut your microgreens.
That makes sense.
You're going to add your seeds spaced to the seeds per square inch recommended on the seed label. Some seeds need to be pre-soaked in water, usually overnight, so read the label instructions for the seeds you're using. For most seeds, they'll germinate better if kept dark for a few days, so you can cover your tray with an inverted, dark-colored tray. You want to keep your growing medium moist with a spray bottle and just use plain water.
Okay.
After the germination period of a few days, uncover the seeds and expose the sprouts to daily sunlight or a plant light. Water the trays from the bottom when necessary. You want to avoid excess moisture and allow the tray to drain after watering. Keep windows open by the microgreens when it's possible, or you can use a fan to stimulate healthy growth, and it helps remove excess moisture.
Interesting.
Microgreens can be harvested in a few days or a couple weeks depending on the plants, so check the label for each type of seed. Use a clean, sharp knife or scissors to harvest the microgreens. We spoke to Johnny's Selected Seeds about what you need to grow microgreens inside. They suggest 10-20 growing trays, so it's just the number 1020, or 20 row seed trays for growing microgreens. A standard 10-20 or a 20 row growing tray is 11 inches by 21 inches. Use a planting medium like potting mix, grow mats, or woven textiles designed specifically for microgreens. Don't use potting soil that contains compost or soil. It can increase the risk of soil-borne disease. Use something to cover the seeds after sowing, like an inverted tray, paper towels, or vermiculite to help germination. They say you might need heating mats for germination in cold areas, a fan, or grow lights.
Okay.
If you're sowing your seeds in a growing tray with 1 to 1.5 inches of potting mix, small seeds should have 10 to 12 seeds per square inch. Large seeds should have 6 to 8 seeds per square inch. If you seed too densely, it can restrict airflow and increase the risk of disease. Lightly water the seeds, cover the seeds with paper towels, fine vermiculite or potting soil, and if you're using paper towels, remove them after a few days.
Okay.
Johnny's Selected Seeds says 65 to 75 degrees is a good general temperature for microgreens. Good air circulation will encourage healthy growth and help prevent disease, which is interesting, huh?
Yeah.
Consistent water is important for germination. Once germinated, water the microgreens regularly, but don't keep the growing medium saturated. It can lead to disease. For a growing medium like potting mix, plain water is usually best without fertilizer.
Okay.
For growing in foam or coir mats with no nutrient value, bottom watering is the best way to add nutrients without affecting the taste of the microgreens.
Cool.
And you can check out Johnny's Selected Seeds at johnnyseeds.com. That's JOHNNYSEEDS.com.
How do you grow microgreens outside?
When you're growing microgreens outside, you want an area that gets at least a half a day of sunlight, and they can be grown in-ground in a raised bed, which is easier to harvest,
Right.
or in pots. Seeds grown in well-amended soil with good drainage will do the best. Once you sow your seeds, water the seeds, then cover them with boards, food-safe plastic, or row covers to cover the seeds while they're germinating.
Okay.
And then after a few days, you'll uncover the seeds and water them as needed until you harvest them.
Okay. How often do microgreens need to be watered?
You're checking the medium that you have them in. You want to water them when the medium isn't damp anymore. You don't want to overwater them and have a problem with mold, so it can be once a day, depending on your environment.
Okay. Can you reuse the potting mix?
You can, but it's easier not to reuse it because it's going to be filled with roots, which you'd have to remove. Plus, mold spores and bacteria can build up over time, and that can increase the chance of disease. And if you have this potting mix, let's say, and it's filled with roots, you can compost it.
Okay. How much sunlight do microgreens need?
Between 4 to 6 hours of direct sunlight or 8 hours of indirect sunlight. You can also supplement it with plant lights if needed.
Okay. What are some top-rated plant lights?
GE has an LED grow light for seeds and greens. It has a standard E26 base, so you can screw it into a lamp.
Okay.
AgroBrite has a floor lamp, and that's AGROBRITE. Fenbao has a tabletop lamp, and that's FENBAO. Bell & Howell also has a tabletop lamp, and that's BELL, the and symbol, HOWELL.
Cool. Where can you get microgreen seeds?
True Leaf Market has kits and microgreen seeds, and they're at trueleafmarket.com. Johnny's Selected Seeds, they're at johnnyseeds.com. The Sprout People at sproutpeople.org. Knowing Nature has reusable planter kits and seeds at knowingnature.com.
Cool. Are microgreens dangerous for pets to eat?
Dogs Naturally magazine says microgreens are safe for dogs. They add vitamins, minerals, fiber, and antioxidants that can help protect against certain cancers like bladder cancer and the effects of aging. but you should avoid onion, garlic, chives, leeks, basil, and arugula. The Longevity Veterinary Center says you can supplement your cat's diet with small amounts of microgreens to add fiber and nutrients to help fight against cancer and infections. But don't feed cats lettuce, onion, potato, or squash. But I would probably check with your vet first before feeding your pet any microgreens.
Okay. Do microgreens regrow after you harvest them?
Some microgreens will grow back after cutting or harvesting the tops. Plants like beans, peas, and kale may grow back after harvesting, but most types, after you harvest them, they stop growing.
Okay. What do microgreens taste like?
Johnny's Selected Seeds says microgreens of arugula taste spicy and nutty. Scallion tastes like onion. Watercress is spicy and peppery. Cilantro tastes like cilantro. Broccoli has a mild flavor, and so does cabbage. Celery has a mild celery taste.
Celery tastes mild already.
Right. Microgreens World says each microgreen vegetable has its own taste. Microgreens of basil have a lemony aftertaste. Carrot tastes like carrot. Beets have an earthy taste. Radish and mushroom are spicy. Kale is sweet. And sunflower is sweet and nutty.
Interesting. Do you have anything else to add?
Microgreens are easy to grow and harvest, even if you don't have a lot of room or gardening experience. All you need is a container, some growing medium, and water, and you can grow them inside on a windowsill all year long or outside in the summer.
Cool.
We'd like to thank Johnny's Selected Seeds and Knowing Nature for helping us with some information for this episode.
Let's wrap this up.
You can subscribe to the podcast on your favorite podcast app.
If you enjoyed it, please leave us a review.
You can check out our home improvement videos on our YouTube channel, Fix It Home Improvement.
And you can subscribe to that as well.
You can download our ebooks, Home Improvement Solutions, What Every Homeowner Should Know, books 1 through 16 on Amazon.
If you enjoyed it, please leave us a 5-star rating and review.
You can email us at fixitpodcast@gmail.com. You can follow Cindy on Twitter @FixitCohost. And you can follow us on Instagram, Fix It Home Improvement.
Thank you for listening.
Talk to you next week.